What's up, guys? We've had a lot of fun with cheat code being leveled on the 35s, especially like in the last video where we took it off-roading. But we bought this thing for a very specific reason, and that ain't it. We wanted to create the fastest truck that we've ever had on the channel, and we even bet Jacob by the end of 24 we'd be able to outrun his 1,000 horsepower Duramax. And now we've goofed around and it's September, so we are rapidly running out of time, but I still think we can get it done. Definitely ain't gonna happen on 24s and 35s. So we're completely changing the direction of the truck in this video. We're dropping it and we're ditching the heavy wheels and tires.
Got our IHC lowering kit laid out, lower control arms, upper ball joints, hardware, rear flip kit. Looks pretty straightforward. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing jacked up, sitting on some jack stands. We'll get started. First thing you wanna do, remove the negative terminal on your battery. That's gonna be a 10 mil.
1316. That guy back on there so you don't lose it.
So now it's time to disconnect all of these electrical wires that run down to the four-wheel drive actuator and I guess the speed sensor, ABS, whatever it is. Anyways, these have got to come out with the spindle. The brake lines will obviously go back with the calipers when we take those off, but they run right up here in the engine bay. You're just gonna pull the red tabs back on both. This one's a little bit more fun because it's up in here. Pull the red tabs back, push the thing in, pop them out, and then we can pull them through here once we take these Christmas trees and stuff off.
1316 as well for the sway bar end link.
Got two 15 mils holding the sway bar on. We're gonna go ahead and disconnect it and drop it out of the way. The other side is already done. And once we get done with absolutely everything, we'll be putting it back on.
Let's go ahead and pull this little Christmas tree out. Pop this guy free here, free here. 10 mil, take this bracket off. Now we got 1316 for the brake caliper. We're just gonna slide this guy out, sit it up out of the way, take our rotor off. We're gonna take the top 5/16 bolt out of the dust shield so that we can get this sensor out. This is gonna be a 5 mil. Wiggle that guy free, sit it out of the way. Stick this bolt back in there. Let's go ahead and take our axle cap off. Just grab it on each side and wiggle it loose. And yes, I know it always blows the Chevy guys' minds. This is the only thing holding the CV axle on. It's a 1/2 inch. Now we need to pull these Christmas trees out. Should be able to pull these guys free. I do have a jack underneath the lower control arm just to take some of the pressure off so this angle isn't so bad. We're gonna go ahead and take our upper control arm off, or loose I should say, 18 mil. Just go ahead and run it down to the end so you got the gap right there. 1316 for the lower control arm. Let's go ahead and give the axle a couple taps. Make sure it's free. And some love taps up top. Woo! That baby had a little bit of pressure on it. That's why you want to leave that bolt in there, because if we hadn't, it would have, and this would have went and probably whacked us. So we're gonna jack the truck up a little bit more, or the lower control arm. Take a little bit of pressure off, and we should be able to get the spindle out of there. I'm gonna put the nut on it so it doesn't fall all the way to the ground. bungee strap this axle out of the way. And just like that, randomly pops free. So go ahead and unscrew our lower, drop it on out of there. Just like that. Now we got two 18 mils for our lower strut bolts. Now go ahead and loosen the front and back of your lower control arm. It is a 27 mil up front, 13/16 on the back side. And you're probably going to need a cheater bar. Now we can go ahead, remove the bolts, and get this factory A-arm, the lower control arm, out of the way. Now go ahead and remove your 3 upper strut nuts. We can drop this guy out of the way, and then we got to knock the factory lower studs out of it. Now hopefully you have a vise or something. If not, I guess you could do it on the ground. Just try to hold it in place, but spray a little penetrating oil on here, and then we got to knock these studs out of the lower shock. All right, let's go ahead and get this upper control arm out of here. 13/16 on the outside, 18 mil on the inside. All right, so I went ahead and dressed our upper and lower control arm, which consists of putting our grease fittings in, put our upper control arm ball joint in, use the bolt, the washer, the nut, grease the outside of the bushings on both, as well as on the truck. So up here, there, and there. So to do that to help reduce the possibility that you run into any squeaks and stuff down the road. I've already pre-greased some in the bushings themselves. We'll do more once they're on the truck, the ball joints. Slide this baby in. If yours is too tight, you might have to take a hammer and give it a couple love taps to space the mounts apart some. There we are. We're not going to be tightening this down yet, but go ahead and put your nuts on it.
Hey, yo!
Let's go ahead and put our new lower control arm hardware in. Got a washer and a bolt coming up from the bottom. Got this strut spacer, which is what it's gonna sit on top of. Slip our strut on, attach the bottom first, and then put it in the shock tower, strut tower, whatever. Had better luck doing it this way on the driver's side. Let's go ahead and slip our uppers in, throw our bolts through. Come on, where you at? There you at. There we go. We'll just leave this guy right here holding that upper control arm out of the way. Now we need to finagle this shock up into place. It's just gonna take a little bit of manhandling, a little bit of strength. There we go. Get it to line up. There we go. Let's go ahead and throw bolts on, nuts up top, and we'll tighten the lowers down, and it will pull this guy flat. Go ahead and take your washer and your nut off of your new lower control arm. Has this sleeve that has to go into the lower knuckle. Push that in real good. Don't lose your washer like I'm attempting to. Thankfully, this guy is pretty light. We're going to finagle our axle in, as well as our lower into place. Take your new nut and your washer, put them on. I don't know what y'all could see because I did not have my camera positioned correctly whatsoever. Got our CV axle into place. I'm actually going to go ahead and take our axle nut and just put it on there so it doesn't pull itself out. And then we are going to actually have to drill out our upper spindle. Not by much, just a tiny bit, but you do have to use a 9/16 drill bit, and basically just at the lower part, the lower tapered part. Open it up just a bit for our new ball joint to go in. Boom, there she is. Just gonna go ahead, tighten this upper down, tighten the lower down, put our cotter pin in. We're putting Loctite on the bottom one. It does come with a spacer. If your truck needs that, then use it. Mine does not, so it doesn't go up high enough either. Well, I think the spacer was for here. I'm not using the spacer, and I'm not using a cotter pin on the bottom. I'm using red Loctite that comes with the kit. Some trucks apparently have enough thread to put the cotter in, but mine doesn't. Tighten her down. Put our rotor back on. Brake caliper back on. Slide this baby over. Line your bolts up. Put your red Loctite on your axle nut. Zip that baby down. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw the sway bar back on both sides. Then I'm going to push and adjust the lower control arms to the center position per the instructions. Snug everything up, sit it on its own weight, do a final tighten down, and then we'll probably have to go back and do a little bit of adjusting to our tie rod because we're probably going to be really towed in or out. Drop her down for the first time. Of course, it should settle quite a bit from whatever it sits at, but yeah. Let's hope it settles a lot more than that. My God, definitely a lot lower, but oh yeah, okay. All right, yeah, it's gonna settle a lot. So here's the full rear kit laid out. We got 2 new rear shocks, U-bolts, washers, nuts, new shackles. These are all the pieces that are going to be used for the flip kit. So pretty simple, not too many pieces to it. Should be pretty simple install. Your boy is running super late and I have to get this done before it is time for Knox and Lauren to go to bed because they get up at 4:30 in the morning, so I can't be working on it late at night. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get it knocked out. Catching back up with y'all maybe 30 minutes later, and we have made quite a bit of progress. So took our shocks off, took the U-bolts off, took a 10 mil off for this bracket. Then there's 2 plastic little brackets that hold all of our brake lines and this big electrical wire together. You got to disconnect that so all of this is nice and floppy. Bump stop, I don't remember what size socket goes to it. The axle will definitely try to rotate with you forward or backwards, so you got to be careful not to let it fall off of the jack. Now we got to take these guys and essentially flip this to where the bolts go down. So big C-clamp, swap those bolts. Do not keep that little U-bolt, whatever. After our big clamp took an absolute dump, and this little one did perfectly fine, I got those guys swapped over, and as you can tell, I now have the leaf spring on the driver's side underneath. It is a problem with fuel tank because the bolt is in that way. Thanks Ford, Chevy, everybody. Why didn't you just put the bolt in the other direction? Either way, just loosen that guy and then you can, shift the axle over. Obviously, take your shackle and the main bolt loose. Drop this down,
Now I just got to pick that up, put it back over here. We'll take the other leaf spring completely out and then just put it underneath, and then we'll get all of our brackets, throw it in, be good to go. We are almost done. I wanted to show y'all one thing though. Maybe I did not read the instructions correctly, but I had to go back and remove the rear U-bolts in order to get this bolt in there for the shock. So maybe go ahead and throw your shock in there before you do that. What was fun? These guys were a little bit fun getting to line up. Our drive shaft tried pulling out, so watch that. If your axle seems to be way too far back, it's because it is, and you need to push it back forward. Got everything lined up. I just got to put the nut on there, put our U-bolt back in, put the 2 nuts and washers on there. Oh, I got to put the 10 mil holding the brake lines back up on the frame. Click those guys into place, and then that's it. So I'm gonna get that knocked out, throw our wheels and tires back on, probably adjust our tie rods a little bit because as you can see, yeah. And then I'll catch up with y'all tomorrow and we'll check it out. All right, guys, well, here she is, and initial impressions, I am really liking it, and I am stoked for this thing to finally be lowered. This was the goal from the beginning. I actually bought this lowering kit before I even got the truck in. I've mentioned that a couple times. We've got quite a few parts that are prepared for this style, so a lot of content coming. I'm stoked for it. Ride quality, obviously haven't gotten in alignment yet, so it's only gonna go up from here, but definitely a little bit harsher in the rear, but the front feels pretty much the same, and that's good news for us because there's a bunch of options for the rear, shock upgrades, track bars, bunch of stuff that we're gonna be doing. And so I'm happy with it. I'm stoked with it. I'm actually really excited. Can't wait to throw some better wheels on here for sure, because these are crying, but obviously these are probably the lightest weight possible. So for racing, probably gonna be on these, which we actually have a private track event with Jacob coming up very soon. Probably not gonna be boosted by then, but we're gonna go and give it our best shot. We didn't say it was who wins by the time slip, it was who crosses the daggone finish line. And if we can get this little truck launching out the freaking hole, and maybe he's not on his A game, might just come home with the win, which would be freaking sick. But yeah, there it is. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. Hopefully you know, it helped you install your kit on your truck. Once I put some good miles on it, I'll have a update video on my thoughts and opinions on it. But like I said, first thoughts, I'm pretty freaking excited for it. No real complaints. Truck's looking real good. Maybe just a smidge lower in the rear than the front. That could just be due to the alignment as well, so we'll have to see. That's going to be the next video. We get this thing aligned on a new setup, maybe a little bit more color matching, maybe some little performance things. We'll see. Either way, hope y'all enjoyed. I'll catch y'all boys in the next one.